Brian Thomas Jr. is a huge riser. We have been Team Brian Thomas Jr. on this channel, and nothing that I've seen this offseason or in preseason games has led me to believe that I should pull back my love of Brian Thomas Jr. I hear you. You've been asking for these wide receiver rankings, so here I am giving you my top 50 wide receivers in 20 minutes or less, starting with the wide receiver 1 battle. My first tier, CeeDee Lamb has been my wide receiver 1 this entire offseason. We obviously just got the news that he signed a long-term contract, 4 years, $136 million. Last year averaged 23.7 PPR points per game, more than any other wide receiver in fantasy football. Young player entering his prime, no other weapons around him. Don't overthink CMC as your wide receiver 1. We've also got Tyreek Hill, who was on pace to get 2,000 yards last year, averaging over 23 points per game himself. Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown are tied for my wide receiver 3 at this very moment. I don't care which way you want to lean. If you want to lean Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's a safer play, last year averaging 20.7 points per game, I totally get it. If you want to go Jamar Chase because you think, hey, at some point this guy could put up 15 touchdowns. Joe Burrow hasn't been healthy. We're just 1 year removed from him, averaging over 20 points per game himself. I don't mind which way you go there. On to the top 5 battle. These 3 wide receivers, I believe, are battling to get into that top 5, starting with Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson is going to be just fine in my opinion. I know a lot of people are worried. A lot of people are now concerned about him because J.J. McCarthy went down with an injury. I never expected J.J. McCarthy to start the season anyway. I thought we would have Sam Darnold for quite some time. And last year, if Justin Jefferson was able to average over 18 points per game with Nick Mullins, I think he's going to be just fine. A.J. Brown averaging 17 points per game last year, the clear wide receiver 1 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Garrett Wilson, I think sneakily, Garrett Wilson could be this year's CeeDee Lamb, an all-world talent that just needs the targets from a good quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers can play 17 games, I think Garrett Wilson is a true competitor to be like the next great breakout. All right, and he's a great pick at the end of the first round, by the way. Top 7 battle. Here's 2 names that I believe are battling to get into that top 7 finish this year. Puka Nacua, who last year was a wide receiver 4, averaging over 17.5 PPR points per game. Why is he a little bit further down the rankings? Well, because when Cooper Kupp was healthy, he was averaging more around 15 rather than 17 PPR points per game. Cooper Kupp is going to play an integral part of this offense. There's reports that it will be built around Cooper. I still think that Puka Nacua is the wide receiver to own there. However, it's enough to concern me, at least not to put him in that top 5 battle. We've also got Marvin Harrison Jr., who should get so many targets. He will drown in opportunities. Don't be afraid to draft rookie wide receivers. Remember, Justin Jefferson set records as a rookie. Remember, Jamar Chase set records as a rookie. Puka Nacua set records as a rookie. This is a league where rookie wide receivers who are uber talented and connected to good quarterbacks can come in and produce straight away. That's exactly what Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Maybe the best prospect we have seen since Jamar Chase, connected to a very good quarterback in Kyler Murray, who has had multiple seasons of producing a top 5 receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. All right, top 10 battle. Here is a bunch of names. These are guys that you're drafting mid-second, early third type of range. Drake London, who is poised for a huge breakout, has not broken out yet, all-world talent, but finally gets Kirk Cousins. We know what Kirk Cousins was able to do with Justin Jefferson. Drake London, it's a bit of a projection. However, I do think he has a great season ahead of him. Jalen Waddle may be the most unlucky wide receiver in fantasy football last year. All the metrics are good. All the analytics are good. He is set for a huge bounce back. We've got Nico Collins here as well. Look, I would encourage you guys to look at these players in tiers rather than specific number rankings. If you think Nico Collins is at the top of this tier, go crazy. I don't mind that. I hear you. Think of these players as value buckets. I want to draft in this tier when I'm on the board. I don't want to fall into a different tier. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. But we got Nico Collins here, who averaged 17 points per game last year with a rookie CJ Stroud. The reason I'm a little more concerned than the average person is because they add Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, who averaged over 160 targets per year over the last 4 years. And when Tank Dell was on the field last year, Nico Collins was not as good without Tank Dell than when Tank was gone. We've also got Mike Evans, who is good for 1,010 receiving touchdowns pretty much every year. Chris Olave, I do think the offense is going to change. Last year only had 6% design target share, which is ridiculous. They need to give him more layups. I believe Clint Kubiak will do that coming from the San Francisco offense where they scheme up plays for like Deebo Samuel, Kittle, Ayuk. Devontae Adams I have in this tier as well. This is a guy who we know is going to get 150 targets, but the decline has already started. Last 3 years, decline in receiving yards per year, decline in fantasy points per game per year. The numbers are going down and down and down. And now you add a guy like Brock Bowers, more competition for targets. It's a little bit concerning. Stephon Diggs I have in this tier as well. I am someone who believes, and not a lot of people feel this way, that Stephon Diggs could lead this team in target share. I'm not saying he'll be the most valuable player, but if you're thinking about this, I see Nico Collins and Tank Dell stretching the field, those big plays on the outside. I see Stephon Diggs as their intermediate over the field option, screen plays, right? Slants over the middle. I think that's where Stephon Diggs will live, and he's been very good in his career, and I just think that's an easier player to design targets for. All right, and we've also got the Niner receivers here, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. At the time of recording this video, no idea what's happening with Brandon Ayuk. I do think he will get a contract figured out with the 49ers. They saw in the preseason when Deebo was their wide receiver one, Deebo's not good at creating separation like Brandon Ayuk is. If this team is truly trying to win a Super Bowl, they cannot afford to lose Brandon Ayuk, okay? So both of these Niners are great picks. All right, on to the top 15 to 20 battle. We're starting off, again, remember, all these players in a bucket. View these players as I think they are similarly valued. So that means the first guy in this tier to the last guy in this tier, I would value similarly, and I would try and draft around that tier in my draft. Malik Neighbors. I love me some Malik Neighbors, all world talent. I had him and Marvin Harrison as the same tier of prospect talent-wise coming in out of LSU. Malik Neighbors, bad quarterback play. Yes, he has Daniel Jones. However, you're going to get 25 to 30% of the target share of this offense. There's literally not a single soul on the Giants that can hold Malik Neighbors' jockstrap. I mean, if you look at the preseason, he's averaging like 30% target share with the starters. If he can only catch 60% of those passes, I think he has a very safe floor. You've also got Devonta Smith, who, remember, we're 1 year removed from him being a top 10 fantasy finisher. Now you've got Kellen Moore, who's entered this offense. They're going to use a lot more motion. I think Devonta Smith could be in the slot a lot as well. I'm a big fan of him this year. Cooper Kupp, who, you know, if Cooper Kupp can stay healthy, he might be the steal of the draft. This is a guy who's absolutely going to average over 15 points per game. In the red zone, Stafford was looking for Kupp more than he was looking for Nakua. George Pickens, on a per reception basis, nobody was better than George Pickens last year. Number one in yards per reception. He was so impressive. And now Deontay Johnson, who had 22% of the target share, is gone. And they have found nobody to be the wide receiver two on this team. Pickens could have 25 to 30% of the target share in a bad offense, but still very intriguing to me. I think he's a very talented player. DK Metcalf, I think that offense is going to be so good in Seattle. DK is a great pick. DJ Moore, fine pick, but you're relying on a rookie quarterback. Rashee Rice, my guy this year. From weeks 11 onwards, last season, he became a starter full-time for this team, and he was a wide receiver one down the stretch, averaging 17 points per game. I've said this before. I think Rashee Rice is a cheaper Nico Collins this year. When you think about great quarterback in a wide receiver room that's crowded, I think Rashee Rice is the discount Nico Collins this year. Fight me in the comments if you want. We've also got Tank Dell, who was very good when he became a starter, averaging over 20 points per game. It was only a 4-game sample size, so it's a little scary. Michael Pittman Jr., great pick if you want some safety. I don't know that there's any true upside there. Like, there's a lot of guys in this tier that I think, yeah, you could finish top 12. I could see that. I don't see that with Michael Pittman. I do worry about Anthony Richardson's accuracy issues. We've been preaching that all offseason. I think you finally saw that in preseason games. Amari Cooper and T. Higgins, I think, are very, very safe plays as well. All right, moving on to the high upside tier. A bunch of players that I'm very excited to roster as my wide receiver 4 type of range on my team. Brian Thomas Jr. is a huge riser. We have been Team Brian Thomas Jr. on this channel, and nothing that I've seen this offseason or in preseason games has led me to believe that I should pull back my love of Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously, when you look at 2 wide receiver sets, there's no Christian Kirk on the field. It's Brian Thomas starting, and it's Gabe Davis starting. They're targeting Brian Thomas. He's making highlight plays. I think he's potentially a true league winner. Like a guy week 6 onwards could be a top 15 name, as crazy as that sounds. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You know, Jackson Smith-Njigba was really hindered last year by things that were out of his control, aka terrible play calling, aka Shane Waldron, who is now the Bears offensive coordinator. This is a talented route runner who will play out of the slot, who will play in 2 wide receiver sets more as Tyler Lockett ages. I'm a big fan of JSN. Terry McLaurin gets a little bit of a bump here. Now that Jahan Dotson's out of the way, there is literally no clear wide receiver 2 at all on this team. We could see Terry McLaurin getting 7-8 targets per game. And by the way, drafting Terry is fun this year because you can ask the question, what if Jaden Daniels is good? Like, what if Jaden Daniels is this year's CJ Stroud? You got the steal of the draft here. Zay Flowers, who, look, I'm a little bit lower on Zay Flowers than the average person. If you look at the splits, when Mark Andrews was healthy and playing games, Zay only averaged 11 PPR points per game. Without Mark Andrews, he was a superstar. And I think Mark Andrews is still the number 1 there. Calvin Ridley, fantastic pick this year. Really well priced. Going to get the most targets on the Titans offense. And the Titans offense should do a complete 180 this year. They're going to be very good in my opinion. Chris Godwin, they didn't play him in the slot last year for the first time in his career. It made no sense. He also suffered in fantasy football. They're putting him back into the slot. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. Jaden Reed, a league winner down the stretch, connected to a very good quarterback in Jordan Love. Deontay Johnson. Last year, the Panthers had Adam Thielen, who finished as the wide receiver 17 in fantasy football. I believe Deontay is an upgraded version of Adam Thielen. And ultimately, I think Deontay is one of my favorite picks in PPR formats at this range. Ladd McConkey, Rome Odunze, and Xavier Worthy, all rookie receivers, all in very favorable situations, I would say. You could make an argument Rome is in the worst situation because he has so much competition around him, whereas with Ladd McConkey, this is why I have him slightly above the rest. I see a very clear pathway to Ladd being the wide receiver 1, connected to Justin Herbert. With Los Angeles, you got Jim Harbaugh. Every year as an NFL head coach, he had a top 27 wide receiver finish or better. Xavier Worthy, obviously connected to Pat Mahomes. That's fun to think about. And Rome Odunze, you have to ask the question, is this someone I can start straight away? I don't know. I mean, is this someone that... At what point will Keenan Allen not be out there in 2 wide receiver sets? Is it straight away? Is Keenan going to get more work than I realized? Those are questions you have to ask. And the last tier here, I'm going to call sleepers. Christian Kirk, I'm lower on Kirk than the average person. If you want safety, if you want something super boring, you know, you like crisping toasts and just eating it without any butter, then go ahead and get you some Christian Kirk. Christian Watson, if he can stay healthy, we know the sky is the limit. Josh Palmer will be the number 1 wide receiver in LA to start the season. Keenan Allen, I'm a little bit lower on Keenan Allen than the average person. He has lost a step. If you look at Matt Harmon's reception perception, it does show that he is not the separator that he once was. Now an over 30-year-old wide receiver swapping teams and not the clear number 1 alpha. It's concerning to me. Jordan Addison had one hell of a rookie season. I think he's so reasonably priced. I love drafting him. And he had, you know, the question is if Sam Darnold's good, Jordan Addison is going to be good as well. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Jalen Polk, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and Cortland Sutton finish off this list. Just some high upside, you know, high concern type of player. So that's my top 50. I don't even know if I did it in 20 minutes or less. I hope I did. Maybe my editor can text me, let me know, but I hope I did for you guys. Go kill your fantasy drafts. I'm sorry this video took so long to make, but hey, if you want to know exactly what player I would draft when you're on the board, we have a cheat sheet over on the Flock Fantasy website. It has my guys, sleepers, boom bust, fades, and positional rankings. So every single moment you're on the clock, you'll know exactly what player I would draft. I appreciate you guys for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe if you like the content, and we'll see you in the next video. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.